Hey everybody, Scotty G here, and today we're in our Denver store with some exciting new speakers. The Sonus Faber Amati Supreme in this beautiful Terra Rosa finish. Now, we named the Sonus Faber Amati Supremes as one of the best speakers to come out in 2025, and now you can hear them for yourself. These speakers are not only truly stunning to look at, they sound incredible. Before we even talk about how they sound, just look at these. They're beautiful. Sonus Faber has always treated speakers like instruments, and the philosophy is everywhere here. The cabinet still carries that signature lute shape, which isn't just for aesthetics. It's about controlling internal resonance and keeping the sound clean and natural. But what's new here is the finish. Instead of their traditional wood, you're getting this beautiful executed matte aluminum wrap. It gives the speaker a much more modern, almost sculptural presence. They're less like furniture and more like industrial art. And then there's a glass window on top, exposing the crossover network. It's one of those details that feels almost unnecessary until you see it in person. It's Sonus Faber's way of saying, we're just as proud of what's inside as what's outside. Everything about this speaker feels intentional. Materials, curves, even how it interacts with the room. The Amati Supreme is what Sonus Faber calls a 4.5-way design, which means that each part of the frequency range is being handled with a very specific purpose. The entire driver array is borrowed from their flagship Suprema speakers, put into a more attainable package for the average person. Up top, there's actually a dual high-frequency approach. You've got a traditional silk dome tweeter, but it's paired with a super tweeter that extends the response well beyond what we can technically hear. And while that might sound like overkill, what it really does is create a sense of air and openness that you can really feel. The mid-range is handled by Sonus Faber's Camellia driver, which is really the heart of the speaker. This is where vocals, strings, and most acoustical instruments live. And it's also where Sonus Faber tends to stand out compared to other speakers. Down low, you've got a pair of large woofers working together, and they're integrated into a cabinet and porting system that's designed to move a lot of air without sounding loose or exaggerated. The bass doesn't just go deep, it stays controlled and proportional to the rest of the presentation. All of this is tied together by a very complex crossover network, and that's a big part of why you're seeing it displayed under the glass. The transition points between drivers are carefully tuned so that instead of hearing separate elements, everything blends into a simple, cohesive presentation. On paper, you're looking at a speaker that reaches down into the high 20 Hz range and extends well past 40 kHz, with a sensitivity that makes it relatively approachable for high-end amplification. But realistically, this is a speaker that rewards pairing it with serious amplification. And there's some flexibility built in. Sonus Faber gives you rear panel tuning so that you can fine-tune the bass response for your room. So how does all that translate to what you actually hear when you sit down to listen? Well, the first thing you notice is how effortless everything feels. The top end is extended, but never sharp. There's detail and space, but it never crosses into fatigue. It just sounds really natural. The mid-range is where these speakers really pull you in. Vocals have weight and presence, but also nuance with texture and breath. You'll hear small things you've never heard before that make a big difference to the music. Keeps pulling you in and keeps you listening longer than you had planned. The bass is authoritative, but not overwhelming. It has depth, but more importantly, it has control. The bass supports the music instead of dominating it. But what really stands out is the sense of scale. These speakers can go from something intimate and minimal to something massive and dynamic, without ever feeling like they were struggling. Everything just flows effortlessly. We know there's no shortage of high-end speakers that measure well or look impressive, but what makes the Amati Supreme different is how it balances impressive looks and impressive sound. You're getting technology that comes directly from one of the most ambitious speaker systems ever built. You're getting craftsmanship that borders on obsessive. And most importantly, you're getting a sound that feels emotional and engaging, not just analytical. It's a speaker that invites you to listen, not just evaluate. But at the end of the day, this is the kind of speaker you really need to hear in person. So if you're in and around Denver, come spend some time with the Sonus Faber Amati Supreme at ListenUp. We'll set you up with the right electronics, the right room, and give you the space you really need to experience what these can do with all your favorite music. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos about your favorite audio products, and we'll see you next time.